to my channel. This is Survival Preparedness for Beginners. My name is Charles, and today we're going to be covering 10 tips for new beginners to prepping. And first things first, I have to say that I wanted to do some different videos, and I ended up injuring my leg a few weeks ago, and still on the healing process of that. So it's kind of limited kind of what I can do. So we're going to be doing something where I can be sitting down, unfortunately, but that's just how things go. But today it's the 10 tips for new preppers in 2020. And we're going to start it off. Let me put my little glasses on here. All right. Now I composed a list. I sat down and I wrote out all this stuff. And then I kind of eliminated things to what I thought were the most important 10 tips that I could cover for everybody out there. The first one is don't get overtaken by fear with what is going on in the world and the videos that you see on, say, YouTube, the stuff you read, and everything else. Basically, what I'm trying to put across on this is don't let fear drive your whole life and everything else with prepping. Prepping should be something that you're doing to be able to be ready for a natural disaster, something along that lines. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there that deal with gloom and doom, end of the world, zombie apocalypse, all that kind of stuff, you know. But when you're prepping, you want to make sure that you're prepping for a good reason, all right? And don't let it overtake you. Make sure that, you know, you put a little bit away each week. As you know, with my channel, I wanted to put it out there for the beginners, to show you how you can do this, and you can do it without breaking the bank. You know, the government even states that everybody should have a 72-hour supply of food, water, and supplies. I would say a basically term to go by would be 2 weeks supply. The reason being is just to make sure that, you know, you have enough food to get you through, water and supplies for 2 weeks. But just don't let the fear bother you and overtake your whole life. And just concentrate on just doing what you're doing, and just slowly put some stuff away. And, you know, it's not the end of the world. It's not gloom and doom. I don't preach that on my YouTube site. I try to bring you the facts, and if I put something out there, I make sure that I put the information where I got that from. But don't let fear overrun everything that you're doing in your life, so that you're just doing this constantly thinking that it's the end of the world. Because if it's the end of the world, it doesn't matter what you have. We're probably all pretty much done for. So let's move on to number 2. Get off the gloom and doom thing. All right. Plan on what happens in your area. Now, every area in the country, in the world, all have different types of climate, different things that happen, volcanoes, earthquakes, fires, floods, blizzards, ice storms, hurricanes, tornadoes. You know, it just depends on where you live. You know, everybody has their own little niche. Now, for me, it's hurricanes, maybe some flooding. So that's what I plan for. I plan on for hurricanes, and I try to make sure that I have the supplies that I need for that particular situation. So you want to make sure, if you know where you live, you know what happens on a yearly basis. It's going to happen. You know, this past year we were pretty lucky. We didn't get a hurricane here. We had a couple that kind of grazed the coast. But no damage, no power outages, none of that thing. So when you're doing your prepping and everything, you want to make sure that you're prepping for your particular situation, what it is that you're going to have to deal with, you know, because we all have different things, and it doesn't really matter where you live, you have a different type of scenario that you have to deal with. Number three. Number three is having an emergency plan for what is and could be the life-saving thing for your house, and make sure that everyone knows about it. Your emergency plans should be all planned out, and everybody should know what the emergency plan is in your family. I would like to do a video on doing emergency plans, to show you, kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. For a lot of people, it's easier to look at something. I did start a Facebook page. It's Survival Preparedness for Beginners. If you want to go over and check that out. I just got it going. Like I said, I am a new channel, but I'm going to be posting some information and stuff on there so people can get a visual of what I'm talking about instead of just hearing me talk about it, because sometimes it's a lot easier if you have like a template to go by. But you want to make sure that everybody in your household understands, what the emergency plan is, what to do if the emergency plan has been put in place and you have to evacuate or leave, and what everybody's little role is in it. And I think everybody in the family should have a role of some kind, including your kids and everything else. You may also want to make sure that in your emergency plan you have your evacuation routes. You want to make sure that you have more than one route that's already planned out. I would suggest having 3 routes planned out. For the simple fact is, if Route A isn't going to work, because that's basically the main way that everybody evacuates, and if you've got 500,000 or 1 million people that are trying to get out of your area because of evacuation, probably going the main road isn't going to be a good thing. So you want to have a plan B. And on your plan B, you want to make sure that, okay, this is the alternate plan. And then if something happens, say traffic's backed up, other people are taking that route and everything else, if you really do your homework and investigate that, I would have a plan C where I can maybe try to get around some of this traffic and everything else to get out of harm's way. You also want to make sure that you're sharing your evacuation route plans. Make sure that other people know in your family what those routes are, so they know where, which way you may be going. It's one of 3 ways. With technology nowadays, you can pull up apps on your phone. You can find along those different planned routes, places where you can get food, where you can get gas, maybe where you can stay, campgrounds, so on and so forth. But you can plan all that out and have an evacuation plan all ready to go with your emergency plan for your house. And that's a very important thing. Number 4. All right, I've covered a couple of videos on this already. This is food that you will have on hand, either canned food, like that you buy at the grocery store, canned food that you've put up yourself, dry goods, and that kind of thing. Now I want to touch on that real quick, because I've got a lot of people that say that they don't like eating canned vegetables and fruits and stuff like that. I personally, in our family, we like to eat fresh fruits and vegetables too. But when you're planning for this, you're planning for an emergency type situation where if you're out of power for a week or 2 because you had a blizzard or an ice storm or a hurricane or whatever the case may be, and you have good quality food, not as good as fresh, but good quality food that you can feed your family to make sure that everybody is still getting the nutrition and the calorie intake that they need for the day. And I've done some videos on that, and I'll throw a link up to one of those up there. If you go back on my channel, there's quite a bit of information on that. And as far as your dry goods and that type of thing, your rice, your beans, instant potatoes, all that kind of stuff, flour, sugar, whatever it is that you'd like to put up, it's all on what you want to do to be prepared. Like I said before, we all like to eat fresh fruits and vegetables, but we're not talking about a normal daily thing. We're talking about an emergency type situation where those fresh fruits and vegetables aren't going to be available to you. Moving on. Number 5, have an emergency power kit supply on hand and ready to go. So basically, like I have a generator, all right? So I make sure I have my generator. I take it out once a month and I run it to make sure that, it's good. Keep it cleaned out. I let it run for an hour, turn it off, let it cool off, put it back in the shed. I keep 3 5-gallon buckets, or gas cans I should say, not buckets. Gas cans. I put stabilizer in them, and that should store between 6 months to a year. I don't keep them in the garage. I do have an exterior shed outside my house, so I don't have to worry about fumes and that type of thing. I believe by law you're allowed to have 5 5-gallon gas cans on your premises. You're not allowed to have any more by law. And I have 3. And then what I try to do is every so many months I'll just take and I'll dump it into one of the vehicles and burn it out that way, and then fill it back up with fresh. Being that this is our winter here in Florida, we really don't have to worry about hurricanes right now. But it's January 1st, so hurricane season will be rolling around in a few months, and it'll be here before you know it. You also want to make sure that you have battery backups, the small little battery backups you can get, and they're great to charge your phones, charge your head lamps, certain flashlights nowadays that you buy. They'll also charge those because they are USB rechargeables. You can look for those. You can get them Walmart, Amazon, Target, anywhere like that. But you want to have some type of a backup. I am going to be doing a video and showing some of the stuff that Santa Claus did bring survival preparedness this year, and I was quite taken back. But I did receive a 100-watt solar panel charging unit, and it's really nice. I do have a 28-watt charging panel, and that one works well. I took it on a trip that I was on this fall for a week, and it would charge my phone, my headlamp, and my battery backup for my phone. Usually about 3 hours it would take, 3-4 hours tops, and everything would have pretty much a full charge on it. But the 100-watt, that one it's really nice, and that will charge things a lot faster. It also came with all the adapters, so if I do buy some type of a battery bank for backup power that you can run, your refrigerator, saws, all kinds of stuff off of, it has all the adapters to that will plug into one of those, and you can charge that. So you just want to make sure that you have, power supplies, extra batteries on hand, and everything else for your flashlights, your emergency radios. If you don't have a crank radio, there's a lot of things that go into that. You can get little lanterns. I've done videos on that on one of my videos, for power outages. There's a lot of cool stuff out there that you can get that doesn't cost you a lot of money, but you just have to do your research and do your homework. Moving on down the line, we're getting there. All right, number 6 is practice what you have. All right, so what I mean by practice with what you have, I'll spit it out here in a second. If you bought emergency supply stuff, and you're not like an avid camper, hiker, bushcrafter, or one of those type of people, and you buy certain things, make sure that you get it out and use it before emergency situation arises. Reason being is if you bought, say, some type of a stove, lantern, anything, you want to make sure that you know how to work it. Knowledge is key. You don't want to be trying to figure this stuff out because, say, you don't have internet or something, you can't YouTube something to find out how it works. You want to know that beforehand. It goes right along with, your knowledge with training. If there's something special that, as far as training goes, that you've bought that you're not really sure on, but, maybe a firearm, anything like that, anything that requires any type of training, make sure you get the training beforehand and you know what to do. You don't want to be trying to fool around with this in the emergency situation. Just ain't the time, because most of the time you don't have the time to fool with it. You need to be able to do whatever it is and execute it, and execute it at this point in time, period. Same with your gear. You want to make sure if you buy gear, it doesn't matter if you want to make sure you know how to put up a tarp. You want to make sure you know how to put up a tent. How you would put up a hammock, those type of things. How you get a fire going. All goes with knowledge, with gear. You want to make sure you have different types of things to start, like fires and stuff with. A lot of people think you can just take a match and you throw it in the fire and the fire is going to all of a sudden be there. It doesn't work that way. And in my experience throughout the years of me being out in the woods, you see people trying to take stuff the size of my arm here and trying to light it with a piece of newspaper. It ain't going to happen, You want to make sure that you have something more than matches. Matches and lighters are great. Bic lighters. Bic lighter, if it gets wet, it doesn't work. If you have regular matches and not waterproof matches, they get wet, they don't work. So you want to make sure that you have like some waterproof matches. There's quite a few. I've done videos on some. You want to make sure that you know how to use a fire steel with maybe a flint, or any type of situation. I talked about in one of my videos, to try to make things cheap and inexpensive. You can get cotton balls with Vaseline. You coat the cotton ball with the Vaseline and you put it inside something. I use old medicine bottles, and I stuff them in there, and then when you need one, you pull it out. If you pull it apart, and all it needs is a spark in there, or if you have a lighter or a match, you light the inside, and that thing will burn for quite a while you put some small twigs on top to get your fire going. And then you got heat, you can cook, you can dry your clothes. Fire is key. So you just want to make sure that you understand your gear, and you make sure that your gear is something that you can handle. Don't buy stuff that you're not going to be able to do. Don't waste the money. Look for good deals on gear that that you're going to be able to handle and execute and put out and set up to make sure that you can take care of your family in a time of need. So, moving on down the line. Next, 7 is have an emergency first aid kit. Now, I did a video on first aid kits, and the first thing you want to really be aware of when you're talking first aid kits is, if you're shopping around for first aid kits, really pay attention to what is inside that first aid kit. If you're shopping online and they won't tell you and you can't zoom in on it, don't buy it. Because half the time, a lot of these, if you look at them, they say they're 250 pieces, 300 pieces, and you're getting 200 Band-Aids. I would suggest, if nothing else, you start off with a nice basic kit for $15-20. See what you get in that kit, and then slowly, either depending on how you get paid or what your money situation is you can add slowly to that, either each week or once a month, and build yourself a nice little kit. Get you a small backpack like I have in one of my video for first aid, and you can build a nice little kit inside that. I would also say that with first aid kits, make sure you know how to use the products that are in there. Make sure you know what they're used for, how to use them. Yes, you can buy the small little booklets that you can put in there and read and everything else, but in an emergency situation, you don't have time to read. And if you don't have the book, you don't have internet service or Wi-Fi or whatever, you can't look it up online. So you want to know how to do basic things, putting a splint on, those type of deals. How to take care of a major wound or something, a big cut, how to bandage that kind of stuff up. And if you have a family, you can make a family day of it, and I'm sure if you have kids, they'd love to be, the people that are injured, it'd be kind of cool for them. So you could have one that has like a broken leg or a broken arm, and one that has, a bad cut or something like that. You could even, if you wanted to, go to Walmart and buy a little makeup kit, and you could do, up and it makes them feel like they're important. It makes them feel like they're, part of what is going on. And then this way you actually get to practice on using certain things and how to do them. But I would just, you want to make sure you have a good first aid kit, make sure you understand how to use the stuff that's in it, and make sure that everybody knows that, this is the first aid kit. If something happens and somebody says, get the first aid kit, this is what they go and grab, because you got everything you could possibly think of in there, So first aid kits are really important. Just do your homework and, watch what you buy, because some of them that are online, especially at Amazon, I've seen them go for $200, $300, and unless you really know how to use some of the stuff that's in those kits, it may not be worth it for you. Now if you're an EMT, a doctor, a nurse, or you have some type of a background, you were in the service, or whatever the case may be, you might want to just make sure that whatever you're buying is something that you can figure out and you're going to know how to use, which falls back with your training. Let's move on down the line. We're getting there. Number 8. Oh, this was a good one. Number 8. Get your spouse on board with your prepping. Now this could be, either way. This could be like with me, I'm the one that's doing the prepping in this house. But it may be the other way in your house. The woman is doing all the prepping and the guy is, on the outside of this, trying to figure out, if you're crazy or not, which I've been told. But the way you have to bring this across is you're not sitting here and you're not prepping for the end of the world, some doomsday thing, zombie apocalypse or nothing like this. You're prepping to make sure that you are securing your family for whatever may come your way is form of natural disaster or anything else, and leave it at that. This way here that you have your food, supplies, first aid. If something happens and power's out, if you're able to keep their phones charged, or have a radio so you can keep track of what's going on in the outside world, those little things that give them the comfort of home. And to have a fan running in the summertime in Florida, that goes a long way if you have no power. But you just want to put it off as that way. Don't start with, it's the end of the world. And this falls back to tip number 1 with the fear thing. But don't start pushing it's the end of the world. There's a big rock that's going to hit on Friday out of the sky, and then on Saturday morning it's a zombie apocalypse, because you'll find your bags packed thrown out the front door because she's going to think you're nuts. And if you're lucky, maybe she'll throw your supplies out there too. But that's kind of pushing it. But you get what I'm saying here. You just want to make sure that you get your spouse on board. I'd say the whole family on board, which would make it easier to make everybody feel like they're contributing to what is going on and why you are doing this. Just makes things a lot easier. I am very fortunate. I do have a really good wife, and she does, I think she does, at least, understand why I'm doing this. Santa Claus was really good to me this year and brought me some of the stuff that I was looking for my prepping stuff, and some of my backpacks and things like that. And so I'm very fortunate that she's on board, and I thank her for that. When I'm spending a little extra money here or there trying to make sure that I'm prepping, and but that's very important. You want to make sure that the other person in your life understands why you're doing this, and hopefully you don't really want to say this, but hopefully if something does happen, or when something does happen, when you have the food, the water, the supplies, the power, everything else, and you're able still to live comfortably, that will really change their mind in what you did. Moving on down the line. Number 9. All right. Number 9 is don't go telling everybody that you're or how much you've been prepping and what you have. It's okay if you want to tell people that you are prepping. There's nothing wrong with that. In my neighborhood, everybody around me, they're all prepped for hurricanes. Everybody around here has extra batteries, has extra water, always has extra food on hand, the whole 9 yards. Quite a few of them already put in the home generators and everything. So it's not like it's a thing around here where, But I wouldn't go blabbing it out there. Yes, I started my YouTube channel basically to get the word out, because I feel that it's very important to get the word out there to people and put it in layman's terms, and to show people how they can do this without breaking the bank, without spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and being able to provide a security blanket for them and their families. But I also wouldn't advise a new prepper, if you're prepping in your house, you're not on YouTube or anything like that, keep it off Facebook, social media. No, don't be putting it out there. Just do it. And if people ask, you just say, yeah, I put up a little bit, I put up some food and water and, extra batteries in case, the power goes out or whatever. They don't need to know what you have. They don't need to know how many guns you have, how much ammo you have stored. They don't need to know any of this kind of stuff, because the last thing you want is somebody knocking on your door, and not being too polite, if you know what I'm saying, and things turn from good to bad real quick, because when people get hungry, that's what can happen. So I'd keep it low key. Don't be putting anything out there, like I said, on social media and stuff. The biggest thing is, it's on a need to know basis. When I feel you need to know, that's when I'll tell you. You have to choose who you may help in a situation, as far as if it was a natural disaster or something. It all depends on what you have prepped. I'm not one of these people. I don't have 2-3 years worth of food prepped. I probably have 3 months, if that, and that's good for me, so I'm comfortable with what I have at this point in time, and I don't need to do any more. I do have quite a bit of stuff that I'm going to be doing a few videos on that I have to put up, but that'll probably be the end of my supplies. For one, I don't really have too much more room to store it, and you can't store stuff like that in the garage. We know where there's hot heat and stuff. But, just keep your thing to yourself, unless there's, your family members you'd like to tell or whatever, because you may be prepping extra for them if, say, they can't, especially if they're elderly or something. That's tip number 9. Tip number 10 is something that I'm really big on, and I'm going to tell you why. Tip number 10 is grab and go. And one of the reasons why I started this channel was, if you all remember back this summer when they were having all those big fires and stuff out in California, and I'm sitting here and I'm watching the news, and you're watching these people. Now picture this. You're watching these people run into the house. The back of the house is engulfed in flames. They've already took their kids out, thank God, and take them out and put them in the car. Now they're running back into a burning building, and they're not grabbing pictures and furniture or something like that. They're grabbing clothes and food. And they're running out and just got their arms full, throwing it in the back of the car to run back inside of a burning building. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but running inside of a burning building is just asinine to me. The only reason that I would probably do that is if one of my loved ones was still left in there, and I could maybe have a chance to get in to get them out. Because those things just go up like, they're like tinder boxes. Boom, they're gone. So that really got me thinking on this grab and go type situation. So you want to make sure that you have an emergency backpack that is packed and ready to go in a moment's notice. Inside your backpack, you want to make sure that you have a change of clothes, some toiletries, some type of food that can last you for a day or two, a couple bottles of water. It's just what you want to put in there, but you want to get the basic stuff in there, because more likely if you're leaving like that, you're going to try to get to somebody's house, Red Cross area if they set one up, family members. This is to get you from point A to point B, and you've got something to eat along the way. But I think everybody should have a backpack in the house, including your kids. Now this is just starting. I'm starting to see videos on YouTube about this, and you have your emergency backpack. But if your kids have an emergency backpack, now granted it's not going to be loaded down with all their toiletries and and all this kind of stuff, but you can get a nice little backpack. Go to Walmart and buy them for $10 or less for kids. You can put a change of clothes in there, their favorite stuffed animal. You could take and you can throw some snacks in there, a bottle of water, and they're good to go. Maybe their toothbrush and toothpaste. All right. For one, if you've got 3 or 4 kids, you're taking all that weight off of what you have to carry, and they're going to feel like they're important because that's all part of your emergency plan, is for them to grab their backpack and meet at a certain point in your house. Either it be your garage, front door, wherever. So this way, they feel more secure about what is going on, because when when the shit hits the fan, they could be, it's really tough for kids because they don't understand. So if they're carrying that, and that allows you to grab your emergency pack for first aid, and then I did a video on your 5-gallon buckets and how you can break those down into meals, which I will be doing a video on soon, what I'm talking about, and show you exactly what I mean. But if you can have a couple of those buckets staged towards the front door, and say a coat closet or something like that, where you could grab those 2 buckets. Everybody goes out of the house, you throw the buckets in the back of the car with your backpacks, everybody's backpacks, you get all the kids locked in and you get out. If the house burns to the ground, everything in there can be replaced, you can't, or your kids. So don't be running back into a burning building, a collapsing building, something like that, when you don't have to. If you got your grab and go situation is enforced and it's all packed and ready to go, boom, you're done, you're out the door. So that's the 10 tips for new preppers for 2020. I am going to be putting out some more videos. Unfortunately, I want to do some other things, but like I said, with my leg situation, until I get that worked out, I'm going to have to put some of those things on hold. But I can do stuff that I can do sitting down. I'd like to thank everybody for everything that you do for my channel. Thank you for all the views, the likes, for everybody subscribing to my channel. I really do appreciate the comments and stuff that are starting to roll in on my channel. Thank you very much for everybody that comments. I appreciate it. I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm dedicated to bringing you the best information that I can bring you, to try to save you as much money as I possibly can in doing this, and to try to get across how important it is for you to be prepared in case something happens for you and your family. So, on that note, I thank you once again. My name is Charles. This is Survival Preparedness for the Beginners. If you would please hit the like button, hit the share button, that little bell so you get notified every time that I post one of my videos, and I'll catch you on the flip side.